Welcome to Neville Manifestation, where we explore the power of your inner world and how your assumptions shape your reality. If you're ready to go deeper and truly transform your mindset, consider joining our channel membership for exclusive content and guidance on mastering this journey. There's a quiet moment that comes to almost everyone, usually late at night when everything is still. You're lying there, and out of nowhere, something inside you feels exposed, like a deeper layer of you has suddenly come into view. In that moment, you begin to notice something you've always been doing without realizing it. You've been searching your entire life, not physically, not through constant action, but through your awareness itself. There has always been this subtle pull within you, a quiet reaching towards something just beyond your grasp. And the strange part is, it doesn't feel unfamiliar. It feels like it belongs to you, like it's already yours somehow. Yet every time you get close, it slips away, as if it was never fully in your hands to begin with. Then, in that silence, a question starts to form. At first, it's soft, almost easy to ignore, but it becomes stronger, clearer, impossible to push away. What if everything you've been trying to reach is also trying to reach you? What if the love, the success, the opportunities, the life you've imagined aren't far away at all, but already on their way to you? And what if the only thing holding them back is the assumption you're currently living in? This is where real change begins. Not with surface level shifts or temporary improvements, but at a much deeper level, the level of identity. Most people spend their lives waiting for life to give them permission. They wait for the right timing, the right conditions, some external sign that it's finally okay to have what they want. They move through life as if they're standing outside of it, hoping one day the door will open for them. But life doesn't work that way. Consciousness is not just observing reality, it is creating it. You are not being shaped by what happens around you. What happens around you is being shaped by the state you hold within yourself. The outer world is constantly reflecting your inner position, the version of yourself you've accepted as true. When people hear the word lottery, they immediately think of luck, randomness, something unpredictable. But what if luck is not random at all? What if it's simply the natural result of a deeply accepted inner belief showing up in physical form? Someone who truly sees themselves as fortunate doesn't move through life the same way others do. Their focus is different. Their reactions are different. Even their timing feels different. They notice chances others overlook. They act when others hesitate. They trust moments that others doubt. From the outside, it looks like coincidence. But from their perspective, it feels natural. It feels like life responding to who they already believe they are. The universe isn't separate from you. It's not distant, and it's not randomly deciding who gets what. It reflects back, with precision, the identity you hold in your thoughts and feelings. If deep down you feel overlooked, life will continue to show you experiences that match that feeling. But if you carry a quiet certainty that things tend to work out for you, life will begin to arrange itself in ways that support that belief. Nothing is happening by accident. Everything is responding to the signal you're constantly sending through your assumptions. The truth is, most of these assumptions were never chosen consciously. They were picked up over time. From childhood, from the people around you, from repeated experiences that slowly shaped what you believe is normal. You were told things like success is hard, money is limited, opportunities are rare, and that you have to struggle to earn anything meaningful. And without questioning it, those ideas became part of your identity. Over time, they became so familiar that you stopped noticing them. Just like a fish doesn't question the water it lives in, you stopped questioning the beliefs shaping your reality. But here's what most people don't realize. You are always assuming something, right now in this moment. Beneath every thought, every reaction, there is a quiet sense of, this is who I am in life. And that feeling is not passive, it is active, it creates, it organizes your experiences around it. If you assume delay, your life will reflect delay. If you assume struggle, your reality will be filled with struggle. If you believe things only come after long effort, then that becomes the pattern you live through. Not because it's necessary, but because it's accepted as truth within you. Assumption may feel subtle, but it's constant. You assume the ground will hold you. You assume tomorrow will come. You don't question these things, and that's why they remain stable in your experience. In the same way, the deeper assumptions you hold about yourself quietly build the structure of your life. Reality doesn't argue with them. It doesn't try to correct them. It simply reflects them back to you, again and again. You probably noticed that some people seem to experience luck over and over, not because they have something you don't, but because they carry a different internal belief. They move through life with an unspoken expectation that things will go in their favor. They're not forcing anything. They're not chasing validation. There's no desperation in how they approach life. There's just a calm certainty. And from that certainty, their actions naturally line up with opportunities. To others, it looks like chance. But underneath it, there's a consistent identity, one that life keeps confirming over and over again. And that's where everything begins to shift. When you start to see that the real power was never outside of you. It has always been in the assumptions you choose to live by. Something shifts inside a person the moment they stop bargaining with life and begin living from a deeper sense of who they are. It feels like a quiet belonging, as if you no longer need approval to exist the way you truly want to. You start to feel part of a reality where good things are not rare or accidental, but a natural extension of you. In that space, there is no tension, no chasing, no emotional reaching for something far away. Instead, there's a steady feeling that what is meant for you is already moving in your direction. This isn't about pretending or forcing belief over hidden doubt. It's a genuine shift in your inner position, where you're no longer defined by waiting, but by being. And from that place, everything begins to feel different. Your assumption changes, and with it, the way you see and experience life starts to reorganize itself. The real transformation doesn't come from repeating affirmations without feeling or trying to convince yourself of something that doesn't resonate. It comes from stepping into a new inner posture, where your identity becomes the foundation of everything you do. Instead of trying to become someone in the future, you begin to feel what it's like to already be that version of yourself right now. Not as imagination alone, but as a quiet internal alignment. And when that alignment settles in, your thoughts begin to soften, your reactions change. You stop constantly looking for what's missing. There's an ease that starts to take over, as if you're no longer standing outside your life trying to enter it, but already living inside it. From that position, your actions are no longer driven by urgency or fear, but by a calm certainty. And that alone changes how life responds to you. What people often label as luck or coincidence is usually just the reflection of a consistent inner belief. When someone carries a steady sense of being fortunate, they naturally move through life in a different way. They don't force outcomes. They don't overthink every step. Their awareness is open to possibilities others miss. Their timing feels natural. Their decisions feel lighter. They show up in life without that tight, contracted energy of doubt. To others, it may look random, but inside, there's a clear sense of alignment. It's not that life suddenly starts favoring them. It's that they're no longer filtering everything through limitation or separation. What they expect internally becomes the structure through which they experience the world. At its core, this has nothing to do with magic or outside forces deciding your path. It's about the connection between your inner state and your lived experience. Your state of mind is not passive. It actively shapes how you see, respond to, and interact with everything around you. If you assume struggle, your attention will naturally focus on problems, delays, and resistance. But if you assume ease, you begin to notice opportunities, pathways, and perfect timing that were always there but previously ignored. The outer world doesn't need to change first for your experience to shift. The shift begins with how you hold yourself internally in this moment. And from that shift, your actions, choices, and interpretations start aligning with a completely different pattern. This is why waiting for life to improve before allowing yourself to feel different keeps you stuck in the same loop. It flips the natural order. People think something has to happen first before they can feel better. But the truth is, the feeling comes first. Your inner assumption is the starting point. It acts like a steady signal, and life organizes itself around it with surprising consistency. If you hold on to lack, life reflects more of it. If you hold openness and expectation, life begins to mirror that too. Nothing is random in how it connects to your inner state. Your experience is constantly shaped by the identity you occupy in each moment. Because of this, real change is not about controlling outcomes or forcing results. It's about returning again and again to a new inner position until it feels natural. As you keep coming back to the feeling of already being aligned with what you want, it starts to feel familiar. It stops feeling distant or unrealistic. It becomes your normal state. And once it becomes natural, everything else begins to to adjust on its own. You stop reacting from old patterns and start responding from a deeper sense of certainty. Over time, this doesn't just change how you feel, it changes how you move, how you choose, and what you consistently notice in your environment. In this way, imagination is not an escape from reality, it's practice for a new identity. When you allow yourself to feel as though you're already living the life you desire, you're not denying what's here. You're reshaping the lens through which you experience it. And eventually, that inner lens is exactly what the outer world reflects back to you. At first, the change is subtle, almost invisible. It begins quietly, within your own awareness, where identity is formed. But once that identity becomes stable, life begins to reorganize around it. It has no other choice, because your experience always follows the state you return to most often. The beliefs you carry are not fixed truths. They are assumptions about what you expect to happen next. And without noticing it, you may have been assuming delay, uncertainty, or disappointment. You may have quietly believed that things won't work out, that opportunities pass you by, or that luck belongs to someone else. But an assumption is not a fact. It's simply a position you've been holding. And life, as you experience it, reflects that position back to you again and again. If you assume limitation, you will keep seeing limitation. If you assume distance from what you want, your life will continue to reflect that distance. Not because life is against you, but because your inner position shapes how everything is interpreted and formed. The powerful truth is this: if fear is something you've been assuming, then it's not permanent. It can be changed. You are not stuck in one way of seeing yourself or your future. You can begin to lean into courage instead of hesitation. You can choose expectation over doubt. You can open yourself instead of holding back. You can start to assume that life is already working in your favor, that opportunities are already aligning for you, that good things are not distant from you, but part of your natural experience. And if assumptions shape your reality, then a new assumption will naturally create a new pattern of life. The identity you step into internally becomes the filter through which everything else is organized. Nothing outside of you needs to shift first for this to begin. The most powerful assumption you can hold is simple: that you are someone good things naturally come to. Not someday, not after proving yourself, but now. And this isn't about ego or superiority. It doesn't place you above anyone else. It simply places you back into the flow of life where you were never separate to begin with. Consciousness is always responding to you, moment by moment, and life is constantly arranging itself around the position you hold inside. So the real question isn't whether you deserve to receive anything. It's what you currently believe about your ability to receive. That belief is shaping your experience long before anything shows up in the physical world. Every night, as you begin to drift into sleep, there is a quiet but powerful window. In that space between being awake and dreaming, your mind becomes more open, more receptive. The feeling you settle into during that time doesn't just fade away, it sinks deeper into your awareness. If you fall asleep carrying the weight of doubt, struggle, or disconnection, that state becomes familiar. It follows you into the next day, influencing how you see and respond to everything. But if you allow yourself to fall asleep in the feeling of already having what you desire, already being aligned, already belonging to a life where things work out, that feeling begins to root itself within you. It stops being just an idea and starts becoming your inner atmosphere. And from that inner atmosphere, your perception begins to shift in subtle but meaningful ways. This isn't about ignoring reality or pretending things are different than they are. It's about choosing the internal position from which you experience reality. Consciousness isn't passive. It doesn't just observe what's happening. It plays a role in shaping how everything is experienced. The way you see yourself sends out a constant signal, and life responds by reflecting that signal back through your experiences. When your self-view is tied to limitation, your life tends to mirror those limits. But when it's grounded in openness and expectation, life begins to reflect that instead. There's no need to force outcomes or control every detail. The shift happens within first, and everything else gradually follows. A deeper sense of peace begins to appear when you stop pushing against life and start recognizing that life is already responding to you. This isn't about giving up effort, it's about letting go of inner conflict. It's about no longer holding one belief inside while trying to create something completely different on the outside. When that inner contradiction disappears, Something softens. You're no longer trying to convince life to give you anything. You're simply no longer assuming that it's being held back from you. And in that small but powerful shift, tension begins to dissolve. You start moving through life without that constant pressure to prove yourself, to chase something, or to earn your place. There's a sense of ease that replaces it. When you close your eyes and intentionally step into the feeling of being someone who receives life naturally, you're not just imagining for the sake of it. You're training your inner world to accept a different way of being. In that quiet space, where the outside noise fades and only your awareness remains, your mind begins to form patterns based on what you repeatedly feel to be true. That feeling is more than just comfort, it's instructive. It teaches your nervous system how to interpret situations, how to respond when things are uncertain, and how to position you in relation to life itself. Over time, what once felt unfamiliar begins to feel normal. What once felt like effort becomes automatic. The old patterns slowly lose their hold as the new ones become more natural. This is how identity truly changes. Not through force, not through pressure, but through consistent inner experience. The more you return to that state of ease, alignment, and quiet certainty, the more your mind stops treating it like imagination and starts recognizing it as truth. And once that shift happens, everything begins to filter differently. You start noticing new possibilities. You respond with less resistance. Even when nothing outside has changed yet, there's a quiet sense of trust within you. At the center of all of this is a simple understanding. Your experience of life is always following the state you return to most often. And when you begin to choose that state consciously, everything else begins to fall into place around it. Real change doesn't start with forcing yourself to do more. It begins with what you quietly assume to be true. Life isn't waiting for proof that you're worthy or ready. It responds to the state you live in internally, again and again. When you carry the expectation of struggle, even ordinary situations can feel difficult or delayed. Your mind is already tuned to notice resistance, so that's what stands out. But when you begin from a place of alignment, even small moments start to feel supportive. You notice progress, direction, and a sense that things are moving with you rather than against you. This is how your assumptions quietly shape everything. They act like a hidden structure behind your experience. When you start seeing yourself as someone who moves through life with ease and clarity, your thoughts begin to follow that lead. Your choices feel less reactive, your patience grows, and the way you interpret situations becomes softer and more balanced. The outside world may not shift immediately, but your relationship with it does. And that inner shift is what slowly changes everything else. As you continue returning to this state, it moves beyond just thinking and settles into who you are. You stop trying to convince yourself and start noticing that you naturally respond in calmer, steadier ways. This is where change becomes lasting. You don't need constant reminders because the state begins to sustain itself. Doubt doesn't disappear overnight, but it loses its intensity when you stop feeding it attention. Instead, your focus naturally leans toward what feels aligned and clear. Even your body reflects this change. Your breathing slows in moments that used to create tension. You react less impulsively, and your inner dialogue becomes quieter and more supportive. These aren't random shifts. They're signs that a new internal pattern is taking shape. Once that pattern is established, it starts guiding how you see things automatically. You begin interpreting situations differently without needing to think about it first. With repetition, this way of being stops feeling like practice and becomes your default. You no longer have to remind yourself to return to it because it's where you naturally land when your mind is at rest. Effort begins to fade. What once felt like working on yourself turns into a steady sense of alignment that stays with you throughout the day. You may also notice that external situations feel less overwhelming. Not because life has stopped changing, but because those changes no longer control how you feel inside. This is an important shift. When your identity is no longer tied to immediate results and instead rooted in a stable inner certainty, life starts to feel more responsive and less unpredictable. You act from clarity instead of reaction, and that alone changes the quality of your experiences. Over time, what started as a simple internal shift becomes the foundation of how you live. You're no longer trying to become someone who receives easily. You're already experiencing yourself that way in real time. That doesn't mean everything is perfect or without challenges, but it does mean your interpretation has changed. You stop seeing delays as rejection or uncertainty as failure. Instead, you recognize timing and unfolding as natural parts of the process. Because your inner state is no longer working against what you want. There's less resistance pulling you away from it. Life doesn't need to be forced into place. It gradually reshapes itself around the stability you've created within, reflecting back the calm confidence you've learned to hold. Everything comes down to the state you choose to live from within. Life isn't reacting to your effort as much as it reflects your inner assumptions and identity. When you consistently embody ease, trust, and alignment, your mind, body, and actions begin to follow naturally without force. Over time, this inner stability reshapes how you see and experience everything around you. And as that happens, life starts to mirror back the calm certainty you've created inside.